Lightning Bolt is a very popular magic card. People play it in every format in which it's legal. It's a 1 mana instant that does 3 damage to any target, although a lot of the time with Lightning Bolt, all you want to do is spend 1 mana to do 3 damage to your opponent. There are several cards that look very similar to Lightning Bolt, and some decks just play them as extra copies of bolts. Cards like Lava Spike, which is a sorcery instead of an instant, and also can't target creatures, but that's okay, because if you're playing Lava Spike, you just want to spend 1 mana to go straight to the face for 3 damage, so that means it's basically just another Lightning Bolt. There are also cards like Rift Bolt, Skewer the Critics, Shard Volley, and more, which are also basically just more Lightning Bolts. These cards are very well known and people play them as Lightning Bolts, but I'm here to tell you today that every other Magic card is also just another copy of Lightning Bolt, and I'm going to prove it in this video. Monstrous Rage, a 1 mana instant that gives your creature +2/+0 and then an additional +1/+1 from a monster roll. So that means that when your creature deals damage, you've gotten in an additional 3 damage at instant speed for just 1 mana, meaning your Monstrous Rage was basically just another copy of Lightning Bolt. Kumano Faces Kakazan, a 1 mana enchantment that does 1 damage when it comes into play. Next turn you play a creature and try to attack in, but your opponent kills it. That's okay though, because on the next turn, Kumano flips over and turns into a 2/2 with haste, so when it attacks and deals 2 damage, it's gotten in a total of 3 damage for 1 mana, so that means it's basically just another Lightning Bolt. Thoughtseize. What if you're playing a red-black deck and you're against an aggressive deck? You have a Blood Crypt and a Fetch land in your hand. You don't want to pay too much life by shocking yourself with a Blood Crypt when you don't have to, so instead of playing the Blood Crypt untapped on turn 1, you pay 1 life and fetch for a basic swamp so you can play your Thoughtseize, although that Thoughtseize makes you lose 2 more life, so that means your 1 mana Thoughtseize has made you lose 3 life, meaning you've basically cast a Lightning Bolt, targeting yourself. All of the mythic rare Zendikar Rising lands, you have to pay 3 life for the land to come into play untapped, so once again, playing one of these untapped is basically like casting a Lightning Bolt, targeting yourself. Birds of Paradise. Lightning Bolt costs 1 mana and does 3 damage. Therefore, the value of 1 mana is 3 life. Birds of Paradise costs 1 mana and it can tap to add 1 mana, which previously stated is worth 3 life. That means you have a 1 mana spell that has an effect on the game which is worth 3 life, which means Birds of Paradise is basically just another Lightning Bolt. Mana Tithe, a 1 mana instant that counters a spell unless its controller pays 1. As Lightning Bolt establishes that 1 mana is worth 3 life, that means by playing Mana Tithe, you're making your opponent pay 3 life to cast their spell. If Mana Tithe costs 1 mana and its effect is the same as making your opponent pay 3 life, that means it's basically just another Lightning Bolt. Preordain, a 1 mana sorcery that scries 2 and then draws a card. The utility of card selection from scrying 1 is basically like drawing half a card. Therefore, scrying 2 is like drawing 1 card. So that means by playing Preordain, it's almost like drawing 2 cards for 1 mana. People play Preordain in Modern, and Modern is a turn 4 format. If the game ends on turn 4, that means you've started with 7 cards in hand, had 3 draw steps, 4 if you're on the draw, and also played a Preordain, which we've established is like drawing 2 cards. That means if you're on the draw, you've virtually drawn 13 cards that game. If you start at 20 life, then 20 life divided by 13 cards means each card is worth 1.54 life. Since Preordain is valued at 2 cards, it is worth 3.08 life, rounding down to 3. Since Preordain costs 1 mana and it's worth 3 life, that means it's basically just another Lightning Bolt. Lightning Bolt. If you're on the play in Modern, which we've stated is a turn 4 format, you start by drawing 7 cards. That means by the time the game ends, you've drawn 10 cards. If you start with 20 life, divided by 10 cards, that means when you're on the play, each card is worth 2 life. As we've established that Lightning Bolt is a card that is worth 3 life, that means that since, in this situation, each card is worth 2 life, in this case, Lightning Bolt is not a Lightning Bolt.